I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. This was the latest a stream has ever started, as far as I know. There have been times that the stream time was set to something by mistake, so we don't count those. But I think this is the legitimately latest that a stream has ever started. I'm sorry about that. Um, Here's my explanation for those who are interested. All right, I slept a lot today. That's the explanation. You don't understand. So I got back from Malaysia last night. Got back from Malaysia last night, and I had so many plans today. Today I was like gonna get right back into the swing of things. I had a lot of errands to do. I was gonna go to the gym, but I finished my work for this morning, and then as soon as I powered through that, like we had to talk about the thumbnail for the video, write some stuff. As soon as I finished my work for the morning, I was just like, okay, let me take a quick nap, a brief nap, and then I slept for like the rest of the day. And then I woke up and I was like, oh no, what have I done? And I was going to just start stream, but I was like, I need to eat something. So then, but then I had no food. I did have food because I had groceries that I responsibly got last night, but I had nothing that I could basically like. I had nothing that I had nothing that I wanted to eat at that moment. It's coffee, so I had to go get it. Okay, this last part of the story doesn't matter, but I had to get food. So and then the stream started because I was too hungry. I couldn't stream for 2 hours hungry. You guys wouldn't have liked it. I would have been cranky. The good news is I'm not cranky, right? All right, let's get the stream likes up to 100 so we can get started. Behenort, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 5 months. Do you think Saturn is a great villain? So far, he's an evil scientist with the pettiness of Reverse Flash. I wonder if he has a backstory, but I think we will have to wait for Void Sentry before that. I think Saturn is like, it depends what you want out of a great villain. Like, some people are like, a great villain needs to be really developed, nuanced, stuff like that. I feel like I feel like you can have good villains that are just nasty assholes. You know, that's all Crocodile was for a bit. He wasn't really a developed, nuanced villain. We kind of got more depth to his character later as the story went on. But for a bit, he was just, a nasty asshole who was a pain in the ass to deal with and who, caused a lot of misery for the main characters. And I see I missed some super chats from before the stream started. I will get to those in a second. Thank you. I don't know if that makes Saturn a great villain, but right now he's a very, very hateable villain, and he's a very from his introduction he was a very intimidating, scary villain. Right now it seems like he's about to get the hands from Kuma for a moment, so that might not feel the same. Like, his intimidation factor. We might get to see him slapped around a little bit next chapter. I don't know. At least Kuma should get one good punch in, I hope. So it depends what you want out of a great villain. For me, I feel like he's a perfect villain for this arc because I didn't think that we were going to get a good villain this arc. Egghead Island just seemed like an arc, and it was like an arc out of the blue, basically. It didn't have any of the expected main villains of the final saga. Blackbeard's not going to show up here, Kainu's not going to show up here, Emu's not going to show up here. So it's kind of just like, oh, this is a surprise little side trip, right? And then Kizaru showed up, so we're kind of like, he's the main boss of the arc, and it was like, Kizaru's not an amazing villain, he's a interesting antagonist, right? An interesting character. But Saturn, for what he is as the surprise villain that he's shown himself to be, I think he's really elevated the arc. So what more can you really ask for besides that? Also, random side note, my hair I thought has gotten too long, but I'm actually kind of liking how long my hair is right now. It's very poofy. I like it. It's like, I like this. It needs to be combed a bit more. All right, JWP, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 12 months, man. Just got here. This chapter was generational. Kuma Bonnie Luffy story is amazing. Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised we didn't end the chapter with Kuma punching Saturn, but the entire Bonnie getting to see Kuma, both of them about to be able to see Luffy. I think we're set up for something really, really great here. This chapter was a great way to get back into things after the flashback, help build up Saturn more. Just tying together lots of things in a nice emotional way. Caleb Brown, thanks for the 2. Who gave Luffy the food? Caribou, Kizaru, Goat Chapter. I don't think it's Caribou. I don't think it's Caribou at all. I think Kizaru's a good bet. And you could argue that even based on the way that Oda cut over to Kizaru shortly afterwards, like seeing Kizaru right before the food and then cutting over to Kizaru right afterwards, you could argue that Oda was softly implying that it was Kizaru, but we gotta wait and see. Retro Records, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 15 months. Hey Morj, Kizaru officially 15 months. Holy shit, thanks man. Kizaru officially switching sides this chapter was not something I had on my bingo card. How was Malaysian Christmas? Kizaru, okay, we can't say it's official till we definitely I think it is Kizaru, right? Like it was I feel like it was implied fairly clearly that it was Kizaru, unless I don't know who the hell else could have done it. I think just the way Oda cut between and the way Oda showed Kizaru's thoughts, I think it's very likely that it was Kizaru. So yeah, I'm just gonna assume it's Kizaru for the moment. So Kizaru switching sides this chapter, that is interesting because he didn't want to kill Bonnie, right? He made that clear as he was on his way to Vegapunk. He does not want to kill Sentomaru. That was very clear with the way that he dealt with Sentomaru. Sentomaru being taken into custody, I'm sure you could have expected that, so this shouldn't be a surprise to him. I think seeing what Saturn's doing to Bonnie would likely have helped push Kizaru in a certain little direction. And it's not as though Kizaru is going to stand up and just... I think what Oda had Kizaru do here was perfect, because it's not Kizaru suddenly standing up and being like, this is going too far, I'm going to fight you, Saturn, or something like that. It was the most subtle thing Kizaru could have done that has the potential to drastically change the situation, right? Which is, well, Luffy's knocked out for the moment. Does he need to be knocked out for, like, that much longer? Is basically what's going on in Kizaru's head. He's like, well, if I could just speed up this process a little bit, and then whatever happens, happens. You know, that's out of my hands at that point. I think that is a really, really nice way to do it. As for Malaysian Christmas, we didn't really do anything. My family, who I was there with in Malaysia, we didn't do anything in particular on the 25th. I flew back on the 26th. Actually, I flew back on your guys' 25th, essentially, but it was 26th over there. Did I fly back on your guys' 25th? No, actually, it was like 1 and 2 a.m. It was pretty late for you guys. It was basically like the night after Christmas. Like 26th a.m. is when I started flying back here. But for me, I started flying back on the 26th over in Malaysia. Don't know why I'm over-explaining that. Anyway, in Malaysia, didn't really do anything Christmas Day. We watched a movie, The Boy and the Heron, because like pretty much everything was still running for the most part. Watched The Boy and the Heron. There's a temple in the city we're in, Penang, Kek Loxi, that we went to. Didn't really do much on Christmas. A lot of places were closed, like cafes and stuff, but a lot more places were also open than you would expect. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Missing something here, missing something. Stas Silantiv, thanks for being a member for 15 months. Got that influencer who peddles supplements look. What? No, come on now. Okay, now I gotta get a haircut. Maybe I'll try and get a haircut before New Year's Sunday. I bet a lot of people are gonna be trying to get haircuts before New Year's. I'll try and get a haircut maybe tomorrow or something. Abrar Ahmed, thank you very much. Thank you for all the content, Morgius. Thank you, man. It is interesting how our perception of Saturn changed over the course of the flashback. Oda somehow made us hate him in 8 chapters. That is kind of insane. Yeah, you remember this, which was like, this was a soft conversation that was happening at some point in the story, which was just like, people were like, the Gorosei, I swear it was happening at some point. The Gorosei are probably not that bad, is what a lot of people are saying. Like, they're just people that, like, they're not as bad as other celestial dragons. That's what I remember the conversation was. They're not as bad as other celestial dragons. They just, they're more focused on order, stability, things like that. They're not as, like, cartoonishly evil as so many of the other celestial dragons. But it's like, no, at least the other celestial dragons are, like, dumb, ignorant people who are in their bubbles and, like, they're just they're just like caricature characters practically. Obviously, they're really evil, but they're like caricatures of evil. But the like the Gorosei, are characters who have been around clearly for centuries and know everything about the world and have a lot of, it seems like, intelligence, thought, um, perspective, and like they seem like some of the most put together analytical characters in the entire story, and they still have the same exact opinions as all these other like dumb like two brain cell celestial dragons, right? Which almost makes it harsher that these Gorosei like view humans as insects in the exact same way as these other celestial dragons, because these guys are clearly much more intelligent, much more intelligent, much more analytical, have seen so much more, have lived for so long, right? Like, and they just have the same, you know, extremely bigoted view. And it's just, it seems almost more hateful when somebody is coming from like when a character is written to be like Saturn and has these sort of views, versus like somebody's written to be like Saint Charlos and has those sort of views. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. Jack D Slime, thanks for the 2. Punch gonna hit so hard in 2 weeks. Holy shit, we have to wait 2 weeks for the Punch. I'm gonna be honest. I don't like the. I know the leaker got it for us a week early. I would have been cool with break week, then chapter, then another break week. That would have felt more normal. I don't know what I don't know if I'm really feeling this 2-week break, man. BB, thanks for the 2. I like the explanation on how Bonnie's fruit works. Bonnie's fruit's explanation was really cool to me because it feels like kind of the power. It feels like it's a fruit that is actually the most powerful when the user is a child, right? And I think that's one of the coolest reasons that Bonnie is written to be a kid, right? Along with it just fitting very well in the rest of the story, but rest of her story. But it feels like the power of imagination, like a childlike imagination. You can put that childlike imagination of what you believe your future could be, or what the world could be like, or what you could do in the future. And your future is just more unbound when you're a kid in general, because there's more paths you can go to, right? As you grow up more and more, it's like, you know, if talking like, trying to think of an example that's not too, like if Gonfall ate this fruit, right? There's not much of a possible future for what Gonfall could be doing, or what he could achieve, I suppose, in the remaining stretch of his life. You know, it's not like he's like he can't just imagine himself as like a Yonko or something like that and he's gonna have those abilities. But with Bonnie, it's perfect. It's just your imagination, right? It's very similar to the Nika fruit in that sense, in that it goes by the power of imagination. It's just a different spin on it. So I really like that. Let me catch up on the supers real quick from before the stream started. Thank you for people who did that. And also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Justin Holland, thanks, man. Thanks for the 10. As I said before, everything is connected. Tears of joy for Kuma's prayers being answered may still come true. Gear 5th will be seen by all. Yes, Gear 5th will be seen by all. That moment is going to be amazing. Joy Boy followers emerge, and the Seized Thrones Wars will begin. I don't know if Oda is gonna want my hair's getting a bit too long. I do think I need that haircut. I don't know if Oda's gonna want to do like, because Luffy's bounty poster is already out there, right? To what degree is Oda going to have the world learn that Joy Boy is back, and then all of Joy Boy's followers come together? Does he still want to do it kind of slow? Like, for example, we're going to Elbaf next. Does Oda want the Elbaf giants to realize that Joy Boy, assuming they know Joy Boy, that Nika has returned before Luffy gets there, or does he want to save that revelation for them for Elbaf? Like, does he still want it to be a slow trickle, or is it time that the world just finds out? I don't know. And yeah, the Throne Wars will begin. They're kind of... No, they haven't begun yet, but I do think that within the next arc, like Elbaf arc, at least in the outside world, we will begin seeing more of overt military clashes between larger factions. But it's already kind of in full... Like, the characters are starting to make their moves, right? Like, Cross Guild has started offensive against the Marines. Blackbeard pirates have started hunting down all the other major pirates that are around, you know? Luffy is doing this against the world government. Um, it's kind of started. And Justin Holland, thanks for the 5. Hoping this Egghead battle helps Luffy learn to take on a more Luffy the Emperor mindset to better himself and the crew for the Throne Wars ahead. I don't know if this is going to be a moment of growth for Luffy or him learning anything. He's just always been like this, and there's always been consequences. Like, it's just not a thing that Oda seems interested in forcing Luffy to learn. So maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, but I'm not going to bet at it at this point. Goomba Boomba, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 15 months. Kuma holding Bonnie in that last panel melted my heart. It feels very similar to Ace stopping the punch from Saturn, not Saturn, Akainu for Luffy. The same sort of visual, protected person being held, or not being held, but protected person closest to the camera, the protector with their back to the assailant, facing the camera, and then the assailant hitting the protector's back. It's a very similar visual. Kuma about to punch Saturn is the rawest shit ever. No one expected this arc to be this good. Yeah, nobody had. I think once this arc started, like, people were excited because it's like, oh, we're gonna learn about Vegapunk shit. Vegapunk is one of the least important aspects of this arc, which is really interesting because if you go back in time, Vegapunk was one of the most hype characters in all of One Piece in terms of the way readers talked about him, because just so much mystery was built up around him. There's so much anticipation for Vegapunk, like, what's going to happen with Vegapunk, as it turns out, Vegapunk was not that, like, he's a really kooky, crazy, creative character, but in terms of One Piece standards, I think it's not that, like, mind-blowing. Like, Vegapunk, who he turned out to be in the stuff he's shown us, it's not that mind-blowing in the grand scheme of things in terms of One Piece. Like, it's about what you would expect, zany scientist with a twist that he has 6 bodies, the stuff like that, like, can invent all sorts of stuff. But Vegapunk is not the most important part of Egghead Island by a long shot. Like, this was more so it was more so a vehicle for Bonnie and Kuma's story, right? That ended up being the centerpiece and the beginning of the fight back against the world government, with Luffy taking on Saturn right after this, and they've already taken on so many Marines. So I don't think anybody had Egghead going down as like a top. I don't even know where it's going to end up. Like, let's see how the rest of Egghead plays out, but it's, I think, undeniably a top One Piece arc in the series. I would put it. Let me throw out a quick poll. I'm curious about this one. Very curious about this one. Egghead Island versus. I feel like there's going to be some recency bias here, but it might be warranted. There might also be, rose-tinted glasses, nostalgia bias. You get both biases, right? But these two arcs are counterparts. I wonder what people have. And there's no wrong answer here, in my opinion. No wrong answer. None at all. Interesting. For future VOD viewers who don't know the poll that I just put up, it was Egghead Island versus Subodi Archipelago. And right now, Egghead has a 70%. I mean, it seems like people prefer Egghead. I could keep it going, but it's staying at about 70%. All right, good shit. Maybe we give it a year, let the dust settle, see how people feel. But I feel like that's a perfectly valid take. I think I would probably, on the back of, if you asked me before Kuma's backstory, I would not have said Egghead. Now I think I put Egghead above Subodi. And that's really high for me. Shit, Egghead's really high for me, actually, now. Is it top 5 for me? My top 3 has always been, for the longest time, it's been Enies Lobby. I count Water 7 and Enies Lobby together. It's one storyline. Enies Lobby, Marineford, Alabasta. That's always my top 3. Then usually I have Arlong Park 4th. And then 5 is difficult. I think 5 has usually been Subodi. But now I think I got Egghead above Subodi. And then do I have Egghead above Arlong Park? I think Kuma's backstory is stronger than Nami's. but I like seeing the Straw Hats. I care more about seeing the Straw Hats kick ass in Arlong Park, but we haven't gotten the finish of Egghead Island yet either. And plus, Egghead Island's got all this other great stuff like Hachinosu. Okay, we need time. Gotta give it time. Behenor, thank you very much. One of the main themes of Egghead seems to be, is it worth living in a shitty world? Yeah. Bonnie's little callback to Kuma's own parents is amazing. Chapter 1095 was called Better Off Dead in This World. Kuma's dad said that to Kuma, and now Bonnie says it too. Yeah, I mean, the answer is you can, like, Kuma lived through that world. He almost, like, every good thing that he ever had was always taken from him. But through it all, because he kept persevering and kept trying to make a difference, he did, in fact, make a better life or help influence creating a better life, better impact for so many other people. So I think Kuma's story does communicate that very, very well. And that's obviously something that Bonnie's going to see here as well for herself. Goomba Boomba, thanks for bringing Yonko to your member. No, we covered this. Don't know why I'm trying to answer your question again. Or your comment again. Mr. MMF2, thanks for bringing Yonko to your member for 15 months. Hey, Lords, thanks for the great content as always. Do you think other Gorosei will get the same focus as Saturn, or we don't have that much time? This is a question many people have asked. I will always say I don't think that the other Gorosei will get nearly as much focus as Saturn. I think that it's really difficult. Like, Saturn is the arc boss of Egghead Island. I don't think any other Gorosei is going to be an arc boss. I just don't think that there's an arc that really fits for that. Maybe Elbaf. Maybe we get one thrown into Elbaf. Who knows? But I doubt it. That being said, I think that it's entirely possible that a Gorosei could have as much narrative or maybe even greater narrative impact than Saturn. Like, a lot of people have theorized that one of the Gorosei will betray him. That could have huge narrative repercussions. I think a Gorosei member betraying him is actually decently likely the more I think about it, because we have no way of getting more information on him outside of the Void Century flashback, I suppose. But for us to kind of understand his story since then and his motivations, etc., I feel like a Gorosei betraying him and spilling the secrets of what Im's trying to do, etc., what they're like, to the good guys, you might need a Gorosei member to defect to do that. I don't know. Because Im's just so shrouded in mystery. Like, the world, it's not like past villains like NL or something like that, where the bad guy is out in the open and everybody knows what they're doing. Im is just nobody, like, fucking Dragon and the Revolutionaries didn't even know this was a human being. Like, that this was a real person till just recently, right? So there's only 5 characters really that know about Im and can share information about his existence to people. And that's the Gorosei. So I feel like a Gorosei defection storyline is very possible. But in general, I don't think that every Gorosei is going to have the same level as Saturn. I think Saturn might be about the peak of what we can expect. But even Saturn, like, the amount that we've gotten for Saturn is a very, very pleasant surprise. Jade FW, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 13 months. Yo, Morj, great chapter. How long do you think Luffy versus Saturn will be? Flow-wise, it feels like it should be pretty quick, but power scaling-wise seems like it would be longer. That's actually a really, really good way to phrase that, because that's something I've, I guess, subconsciously considered before, which is just like, oh, I can't wait for Luffy to get back up and just, like, demolish Saturn, kick Saturn's ass, because, like, it just feels like that's what we're set up to do. You know, just see Saturn finally just get trashed and put in his place. But at the same time, it's like, it shouldn't be easy for Luffy to do that, because we just saw, you know, Luffy versus Kizaru was not it took some chapters, right? It took a little bit of time for Luffy. Saturn, it feels like, should be stronger than Kizaru. I mean, right now he's already got the entire Straw Hat crew unable to move. At the same time, it seems like Kuma, even in Kuma's current state, is able to resist Saturn a bit, which is surprising. Although I guess Saturn himself is surprised and doesn't really know what to expect here, so maybe this isn't really a power scaling thing. Yeah, it's hard to say, because if Saturn is Yonko-ish level, like a lot of people feel, then Luffy shouldn't be able to... Like, Luffy, in theory, should have more difficulty with Saturn than he had with Kizaru. But then if you have the fight go over the course of, like, many chapters, that does also complicate it as well, because it's just like, it kind of wouldn't, I don't know, the flow definitely feels more so like we want to see Luffy just come out and just give him a beatdown, not Luffy come out and be like, I don't know, like getting the like Luffy versus, like seeing Luffy in a sort of Luffy versus Katakuri struggle where he's just like clawing and fighting his way just to do damage to this guy, you know. So it's hard to say. I don't have a good guess on that. I would love to see. I'll tell you what I would love to see. I would love to see Luffy's crew be able to come through in some way, but ultimately Luffy needs to be the highlight. Flip side, I would love to see Luffy just show us a new level to Gear 5th abilities than he's already displayed. Like, if he was messing around versus Kizaru, I would love to see him just go absolutely nuts against Saturn and kind of like maybe do things that he wasn't doing against Kizaru or even against Kaido or anything like that. Just show us more potential even of what Gear 5th can do here. Akakao, welcome to the Yonko. Please look forward to a special podcast that comes out for Yonko tier members every Friday. It'll be coming out tomorrow, of course. And actually, right now, fun fact, there is what is it? What is this thing? It is, I don't know why I'm forgetting my own podcast. It's the Pirate King tier podcast. This is an extended podcast where you guys can, for Pirate King tier members on either YouTube or Patreon, you can submit any questions that you want, One Piece related or not One Piece related. Many of the questions turn out to be not One Piece related whatsoever. You can submit those questions as Pirate King tier members, and I answer them all in an hour-long podcast. Last one was like an hour 20 minutes, actually. Usually it'll be an hour long. And that's the submission segment. The submission window for that has just opened up. So if you guys want to get those in, I will have them up for you next week. So Pirate King podcast for the month is open. If you guys are interested, please have at it. Jade FW, a Pirate King tier member for 13 minutes. Oh, we just covered this question. All right. But a Pirate King tier member. So if you would like to submit questions like Jade FW, please go ahead and join the Pirate King tier. Just to check it out if you would like. Beyond that, we've got... Okay, Akash Panda, thanks for the 10. First of all, Kuma putting his pacifism aside and making a fist for the first time instead of using his paws. I did not think about the fist symbolism. I think that is really, really cool. We've never seen him just like throw a punch. We're getting a pastor versus demon matchup. Oh, I'm loving these points, Akash Panda. Yeah, a pastor versus a devil matchup, honestly, is what it is. That is a really, really cool bit of symbolism there. Frankie presses a self-destruct... Whoa. I don't like your third point. Frankie presses a self-destruct button and kills Kuma? I don't know about that. Frankie presses a self-destruct button. I don't know. I don't know if I want Kuma going out like that, but it kind of feels right. Because Kuma will die, I feel. I still feel it's right for Kuma to die. I feel like these are his final moments for his character. So he's going out with a bang. I guess an explosion fits. Am I talking myself into believing this explosion thing? I don't know if Frankie pressing a self-destruct button, but Kuma going out with an explosion I think would be helpful. Could do some damage to Saturn before Luffy fucks him up. I don't know about the self-destruct thing, but that would be a very Kuma thing to do, to go out with a self-destruct choice. BB, thanks for the 10. If Bonnie figures out that Luffy is Nika, does that mean she will not be able to do the Nika-ish future ability anymore? Because then she knows there will be no possible future for her being Nika. No, in fact, I mean, okay. I think that's very possible. I think that would almost be sad that, like, Bonnie seeing Luffy in the Nika form, for that to then kind of kill off one of her abilities in a way, because I mean that should spark so much joy and faith and imagination in her, but at the same time she would then in a way kind of lose the magic of what she could do beforehand. Kind of like, I don't know, it feels like is this kind of I feel like this kind of happened in Peter Pan. Like stop believing in fairies and then you lose the ability to fly or something like that, or I don't know. It would just be the reverse, where it's like now you believe in fairies but you lose the ability to fly because of that, if you put it in One Piece terms. I don't know. I'll give you this. I'll say this instead. If Bonnie sees Luffy, then sure, then technically that means that she can no longer be Nika. But actually you could view it on the other way, which is that if she sees that Nika does in fact exist, right, then suddenly she knows for a fact that she could become Nika, because all she would have to do would be kill Luffy, and then she could eat his fruit. No, she can't eat his fruit, right, because she already has a fruit. Yeah. Once she finds out that Nika is devil fruit related, then technically, in theory, that would make Bonnie unable to do the ability. Let me give the more honest and let me give the more honest explanation I have, which would probably be more in line with the story's themes, which is that, it's not so much Nika's abilities, it's the concept of Nika that Bonnie wants to believe in, and her just slowly losing faith in the idea that something like that could even exist is what's draining her ability to use that form. So seeing that Nika is a very living, actual being, I do think that would... I don't think it has to be so literal that, oh, Bonnie now knows that she can't become Nika. It's more like now she sees what she believed in is real, and she can imagine a future where she could be like Nika, right? Not necessarily Nika himself, but where she could follow in the footsteps of Nika, because she has reinvigorated faith in that legend. If that makes sense, right? So maybe it doesn't have to be that literal that, oh, I can't be Nika because there's already a Nika. Maybe it's more like, oh, I could be like Nika because I can see him right in front of me. I could grow up to be like that type of person. I don't know. Flip side, maybe she starts believing in something else when she sees Luffy and Nika, some other sort of future, and that future is even more powerful because it's maybe unique to her. I don't know. There's other options, but I don't think that her seeing Luffy will be bad for her and her abilities. Grizzly Adams, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 4 months. Girlfriend got me a Fruit of the Devil shirt from the Morj store for Christmas. Best girlfriend in the world. Let me post the Morj store clothing links below. Shouts to Grizzly Adams' girlfriend. He is very, very happy with it. I'm sure. I'm just going to assume that. Also, I don't see Oda fumbling the ending of Egghead, so this is probably the top one post-time skip arc so far. Whole Cake Island is pretty close, though. Yeah, I personally have this as the best post-time skip arc, easy. And then I have Whole Cake Island second. Yeah, I think, for me, I think I definitely have this above Whole Cake Island, but I can understand people having Whole Cake Island close. But yeah, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member. Let me post the Morj store link, so before I forget. This is where Grizzly Adams got all his clothing. One second. And Grizzly Adams, make sure to submit to the Pirate King your question for the Pirate King podcast. The submission stuff is up right now. Uchek, thanks for being another Pirate King tier member for 15 months, man. I feel like I'm saying what a chapter every chapter. Yeah, this has been such a fantastic run of chapters, man. Everything for like the last, I don't even know. All of Kuma's flashback, obviously, but then before that with Saturn's transformation. Luffy versus Kizaru was cool, at least for a bit. Maybe it dragged here or there a moment. But then before that, we had the Hachinosu. Chapter 1089 was also really good, just cutting back the Egghead. There was so much great stuff. And Sunwreath, welcome to the Pirate King tier. So we got a lot of Pirate King tier members now. Make sure that you get your submission in. You should be able to find it pretty easily in the YouTube community posts for what you want to ask for or have elaborated on in the Pirate King podcast. I do get to everyone's questions in the Pirate King tier podcast, and I tend to answer them in a more elaborate manner than I do on streams, just because there's more time, and I can be a bit more unfiltered because it's a private podcast. Also, let's get the stream lights up to 200 real quick. Oh shit, did I post the thing? No? Hello? Did I post it? There we go. Shattered Glass, thank you very much. Morj, thank you for the amazing year. Thank the series, but I'm happy that I was able to help entertain and make other aspects of it fun for you. Do you think Saturn will nuke Sorbet if Kuma and Bonnie resist? Or maybe he'll nuke Egghead instead? Do I think Saturn will nuke Sorbet if Kuma and Bonnie resist? Sorbet, I didn't even think about Sorbet. I don't think Sorbet would necessarily be, because I don't think Kuma has enough of a brain at this point to be negotiated with. So I think he's off the list. And then Bonnie's like a kid. So I don't think Bonnie's necessarily someone that Saturn is interested in. She's like a 12-year-old. And she doesn't even have that much attachment to Sorbet Kingdom. Because remember, her experience in Sorbet Kingdom was like her house. She didn't really have anything else in Sorbet Kingdom. She has no other real attachments in Sorbet Kingdom. She just lived in a house. For her, she doesn't know anything about Sorbet Kingdom, right? She knows less about Sorbet Kingdom than a random tourist that showed up to Sorbet Kingdom for like a half-day excursion. I don't know. She's never seen any of it. Maybe he'll nuke Egghead instead. So this is a fun little idea that I've had, which is if Egghead ends up being nuked, right? So we can put a few pieces together, right? Logia Awakening, which is something that was teased this arc but yet to be seen. 2, Kizaru's little character change, which seems to already be happening. And 3, the fact that it's been actually specifically stated, I'm pretty sure now, that I think we got the specific statement that the weapon that was used to destroy the Lucia Kingdom was made out of light. So I wonder if the order is put in to destroy the Lucia Kingdom, not the Lucia, Egghead Island, and Kizaru makes one big last stand of officially standing against the world government and protects everybody by using Logia Awakening to divert the light that is that attack. I think that would be really, really cool to see. Neil Smith, thank you for the 5. Bonnie giving distorted futures to crew during fights seems like too much creative potential for Oda to not make Bonnie crew. I don't know if I'd like that, though. Like, give me a future where I am the world's strongest swordsman. I think that would be too easy to cheat some fights. So I hope that she can't do that specific. She doesn't do that specific ability for the crew to win fights. But using distorted future on herself, I think, has so much fun potential for future fights for her. I do believe that she will join the crew more and more now. JWP also saying, imagine if Johnny joins the crew and learns how to use her fruit freely from watching Luffy. Yeah, I think that her watching Luffy should only enhance her abilities, not limit what she can do in the future. And I think that would be interesting to see as well, her fighting even more creatively the more that she sees Luffy. I put out that video a bit ago, which was like, Bonnie is Luffy's successor, or Bonnie is framed to be Luffy's successor, and people were, well, no, actually, most people were like on board with it, but I did see some pushback a little bit, and I'm just like, why? She's literally written very similarly to Luffy, and she's got abilities that work based off of imagination and dreams, very similar to Luffy. Drew Bichet, thanks for the 5. Sup, Morj? Do you think there's something to Oda writing back-to-back arcs with main child characters changing their age / making themselves older? I've thought about that because, like, even when Wano was going, I was very confident that Momonosuke at some point will meet Bonnie and then have his age reverted, right? That didn't happen. Maybe it happens at the future, I don't know. But at the same time, I'm like, so that, like, growing up had to happen in Wano. And then here it seems to be more about, like, somebody who seems like an adult turning out to be a kid. So, like, I think I need a bit more before I get what Oda's really going for here necessarily. But, like, I think Bonnie and Momonosuke are very interesting. It's a very interesting contrast of characters because Momonosuke's whole thing was that, you know, like, from the time we met him, he was a very scared, weak little kid, not very confident, right? He was what a normal 8-year-old basically is, right? And he was forced to essentially grow up and take steps and become braver and bolder over the course of all those storylines, but mainly in Wano, right? I don't think he developed too much between Punk Hazard, Zoe, and Dressrosa. I think mainly in Wano is where he was forced to step up and grow up, right? Here, it's like Bonnie's this kid who was forced to grow up much early, like literally and physically. Like, Bonnie's story is fucking insane because, like, we know how difficult the New World is. We know what much of a nightmare just trying to explore the seas as a pirate is, right? Like, the Strahds barely survive, and they're like a grown-ass crew. And Bonnie's like a 10-year-old, like, she was a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old kid just running from the Marines, trying to survive. She was traversing the New World by herself, like, as a child, looking for her father. The fucking New World. Solo, right? Going to Marijoa, going to Saboti, like going to the craziest fucking places in the world, and doing it all basically solo past a certain point, right? Her crew she didn't have anymore after a bit. And she was doing all of that by herself. And at her core, she was still just like a little girl that wanted to find her dad again, right? And now she can finally be that little kid again. So Momonosuke's journey and like now that you got me thinking about it, Momonosuke's journey and Bonnie's journey does contrast very nicely. Bonnie does make Momonosuke look like more more embarrassing in retrospect. Like at the time it was like he's a kid, so you like obviously he's just a kid, like you give him a pass for everything, but now it's just like, well, Bonnie's just a kid and Bonnie's like top 5 most badass characters in the entire story. So it does make Momonosuke look a little bit, I don't know, but you know what he still just, let's give him a pass. Does remind you that Odin was doing some crazy shit when he was like 3 years old, but you know, no, give him a pass. All right. Anyway, but yeah, it is interesting. I think those putting those two characters back to back was very deliberate, and Momonosuke is a great character. Obviously, I'm joking, and Bonnie's a phenomenal character, and I think getting to explore the two sides of basically like child to adult, adult to child, I think that was interesting. Let's wait for the end of the arc and how their stories wrap, or maybe even intersect. Maybe their stories intersect. It would be cool to see. Dom the Mom, thanks for the 2. What's the deal with the ancient robot? Love your vids. Love your vids. Sorry, for a moment I read it. You said that in one word, so I was like, what does that mean? Dude, the ancient robot, I still don't fucking know. I don't have an idea about the ancient robot. It's something to do with Luffy. I still think it has something to do with the mystery energy source that Vegapunk was talking about, but I don't fucking know with the ancient robot. More questions. That's cool that we're this far into Egghead and there's still certain things that we know are going to happen and get explained that haven't come to be yet. Maybe Saturn, okay, so people were talking about like how will Saturn be defeated easily in a power scaling sense. There's a few factors, right? Like maybe Kuma can do a bit of damage, but I don't think Kuma can do that much damage, to be honest, in the state that he's in. And even at full power, I doubt that Kuma should be able to do that much to Saturn, in my opinion. We never really got a gauge of how strong Kuma is. But maybe the robot puts in some work. And then Luffy's able to wrap things up. Again, I would love to see the crew be able to help, but I guess it's just not the time for that. A lot of people said that Sanji was there to be used as a hype tool for Saturn. And that is essentially exactly what he's being right now. NMJR, thank you very much. What if Luffy will have a gone Hunter x Hunter moment? That when Bonnie figures out that he is Nika, Bonnie will age him up to be powerful enough to defeat a Gorosei. I hope that doesn't happen. No, Luffy should be able to do everything that he needs to do at his current age, right? Like he's already, his progression rate is so fast. I don't think that he should need to be aged up to be able to defeat Gorosei or even Imu soon. Like we like seeing Luffy organically progress over the course of the story. I think that's a very important part of One Piece. Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Let's get it up to 200. Let me see where I'm at. Oh, shit. Just saw something about Sanji slander. Noah Phillips, thanks for the 5. What is your theory on why Kuma is acting seemingly of his own free will now, or at least to protect Bonnie? I think there's 2 answers. One might be the switch thing that Vegapunk explained earlier. The other might just be that it's just pure raw emotion that couldn't be programmed out of him or something like that. So one is the more romantic idea, the pure raw emotion thing, like the more idealized idea, sentimental, whatever you want to say. The other being basically the fail-safe thing that Vegapunk likely programmed in. I don't know how I feel about the switch thing that Vegapunk offered to put in, because I like the idea that Kuma's pretty much completely gone, but at this moment there's just something within him that, like, just through sheer human spirit, Vegapunk wasn't able to remove. I like that idea quite a bit. So let's see. We'll find out. King G, thanks for the 2. I love the Sanji slander that spawned from this chapter. It's... Dude, it is not a good look, for sure. It's not a good look. I mean, I understand it's an ability that probably would work on anybody. I wouldn't be surprised if Luffy woke up and Saturn's even able to make it work on Luffy. Um, no, I mean, but Haki should be able to stop that, right? Because Law explained like 15 chapters ago that strong enough Haki can counteract even broken Devil Fruit abilities. So it might mean Sanji's Haki's not quite there. I don't know. Tom, thanks for the 2. Can next stream be a tier list of the year's chapters? 100%. Next stream we're gonna do that. I'm not joking either. Let's do that. I think that I thought about it for a bit. I do put 1102 above even the Ginny death chapter. Yeah, I think I put it above that one even. Let's do the full tier list to see. But I wouldn't be surprised if 1102 was the chapter of the year. I'll revisit the Ginny chapter as well. We'll weigh the two. Akash Panda, thanks for the 2. Last point was a joke or a reference to Baltimore. Okay, I was thinking about that when you said it, but the Kuma blowing up, I did take seriously because I think it is a valid possibility. I'm like, I kind of crossed off Frankie doing it in my head. I didn't take that part with much weight, but you did plant in my head the idea that Kuma might self-destruct on his way out. Behenor, thanks a lot. I think it's possible Bonnie will fight her biological father in the final war, whether it's Saturn if he survives this arc, or Garling, or some knight. I wonder if it's that important for us to learn who Bonnie's biological father is. I mean, it's a giant piece of shit, but so are all the Celestial Dragons. I wonder if it's another one of the Gorosei. Because it got handed over to Saturn to experiment on. That's an interesting idea. Bonnie deserves some major payback against some Celestial Dragons, for sure. Oreo, thanks for the 2. The most Oda has built up an arc villain. The most Oda has built up an arc villain versus Luffy. I don't think this is the most, because like Saturn was dropped into the arc like not too long ago, like 12 chapters ago. Like I think many arc villains have had more build up than Saturn has versus Luffy. I mean, just look at most like I think you can look at most arcs and generally the build up has been established much earlier. Like Luffy wanted to fight Lucci from way back when, that was building towards Luffy Crocodile. That was like Luffy was talking from even before the arc started about building up, like about beating up Crocodile. I think in general, like Wano, same thing. Saturn, I'd say, is the other way around, where it's like a villain that kind of gets dropped in kind of late. Like you kind of realize that they're the big bad of the arc kind of late in the story, but you still really, really want to see Luffy beat them up. I say to date, the most surprising, pleasant surprise arc final boss was Katakuri, because if you go back to Whole Cake, like, people had no fucking idea that Luffy was going to fight Katakuri. It just wasn't even a thing that was set up in any sense whatsoever. Because the entire time they're talking about Big Mom, Big Mom, Big Mom, then this cool guy Katakuri shows up. And, like, it was fun. Like, because I was on Reddit back then, you would see random, like, posts. It was like, I wonder who's strong. Like, by the way, many people believe that Katakuri was being saved for a Sanji opponent later down the line in some future arc. Because it was clear that they were just going to try and escape Whole Cake Island for a bit, right? So most people were like the common post you would see is that Sanji will one day fight Katakuri or something when it's time to take on the Big Mom Pirates again. Nobody had Luffy versus Katakuri. You would see random fun power scaling stuff, which would be like, I wonder if Luffy could beat that guy Katakuri or something like that. Because it was just like, oh, Luffy, you know, he struggled against Cracker. I wonder how he would do against Katakuri. Like, I wonder how close Luffy is to a first mate. It was one of those things where it was like, all of a sudden, like, they're on their way to escape, and then you see Katakuri talking about, like, I'm going to make sure they can escape. It's like, he's going to make sure they can't escape. And then suddenly Luffy's fighting Katakuri on the ship, and then all of a sudden they're in the mirror world, and that's what made that fight so exciting, because it was just out of the blue, out of nowhere. Suddenly we're getting like a crazy cool matchup that we didn't know we wanted. Usually you know who Luffy's going to fight pretty early in the arc. Anyway, I digress. But I still think that was one of Luffy's coolest arc matchups, just because just the surprise nature of it. Manny, thanks for the 5. Do you think Yuruj will come up in the final saga? He's the last of the worst generation to do anything. There's two options with Yuruj. One is that he He's not important, and Oda forgot about him. Because he realized at some point he made too many supernova, and he's been trying to cut a lot of them out of the story. And he couldn't even think of anything for Yuruj, and Yuruj is just fucking sitting on the Sky Island with Oda forgetting that he's even there. Two is that Yuruj is kind of like a Bonnie, where Oda does have something really significant for him planned in the story, and that's why he didn't throw him into other arcs like Wano, or Whole Cake or something like that, because Yuruj's relevance is more significant than that. Therefore, it's saved for the final saga, because final saga we probably learn a lot about lore, more about sky people, things like that. Yuruj could come in big there. Duck20, thanks for the 5. Kizaru will find a dream in this arc and kill Saturn. Kizaru killing Saturn. KKS, right? Kizaru killing Saturn? KKS. Did not think about that. Kizaru killing Saturn would be so cool. I think that'd be really, really cool. Because it's just like... It's the ultimate act of rebellion. Because we just found out that from the Kuma flashback that no one had punched a celestial dragon in like hundreds of years, right? Kizaru, like the most obedient of the admirals, killing one of the 5 most important celestial dragons in the world would be such a cool change of pace for his character. Especially if it's in some sort of a sacrifice, like Kizaru goes out doing that. I like that. Jay, thanks for the 10. It does seem like Kizaru holding back and stuff wasn't actually cope after all, and it's cool for his character, but I do have to say I hope we get a true Admiral versus Emperor showcase soon. No, that's not... No, he wasn't I mean, okay, he's holding back in the sense that he didn't use Awakening, but it doesn't change the outcome of that fight, because we already could go inside his thought. Like, we literally also got the internal monologue that this chapter only establishes that he doesn't want to see Bonnie killed, which we already knew. He didn't try and kill Bonnie when he was like, I don't want to have to hurt old friends. He just moved past Bonnie. We also knew that he didn't want to kill Vegapunk. Like, these are all things that we already knew and were already clear, but it seemed like he was still going to go ahead and carry out his order anyway, but he wasn't going to kill Sentomaru. He still cares about Sentomaru. He doesn't want to kill Bonnie. This chapter just establishes that he will subtly try and make those things not happen if he can, right? But you can't change the outcome of the Luffy versus Kizaru battle, because we literally got the text bubble inside his head that established that when Luffy hit him, that was not something, like, he wasn't faking it there or anything like that. That was not something that he wanted to happen or that he allowed to happen. That was just something that happened and seriously fucked him up, because it's established inside his internal monologue that this is not good, right? That's not him trolling. That's not him joking. It's factual that is like... that getting punched by Luffy is not something that he allowed to happen, and it did seriously affect him, right? It's not like he held back and that's what happened. It's something that was not part of his plan or intention. But he didn't use Awakening, so you can always have that up your sleeve as the argument for Kizaru not going all out. But it's never suggested that he allowed Luffy to beat him in the fight. Again, because we have that final panel that final internal text bubble that establishes that he did not want to lose he did not want to take that punch, right? He didn't want to go down to that punch. Dom Lamam, thanks for the 10. The recurring theme of removing a living being's will being an impossible task, showing up again with Kuma using a hockey fist, hockey being tied to will, is awesome. Kuma's still in there. Yes, I like the idea, and it feels like this is what it is, which is that you can't remove spirit no matter what you do. Human spirit, whatever that is, can't be taken out. It was the same problem established at the beginning of the arc, same problem that we're seeing right now, and it's the problem that the world government keeps dealing with. This is a random small side thing that I'll just say, which is that it's interesting to me that a lot of people discussed, can the Seraphim use hockey? I think that this suggests that it's very possible that the Seraphim can use hockey. Yeah, I think that establishes that it's possible for the Seraphim to use hockey. I guess you could argue that Kuma originally had a free will, whereas the Seraphim never had a free will. I don't know. But the Seraphim have shown free will too, like Hancock and such. So, I don't know. Shit. Oxy D Ward, thanks for the 10. People are acting like Vegapunk did some shenanigans to keep Kuma's consciousness, even though Lilith confirmed that it's not possible to completely remove free will, not to mention Sindri. Yeah, I think it's more thematic there. But it is weird that Oda included that line about the switch that you could toggle on and off, because why include that line? I don't know. Dimian Wright, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 4 months. Kizaru wasn't trying to fight Luffy, just kill Vegapunk. It wasn't a true fight. But he was trying to get past Luffy to fight Vegapunk, right? So, or to kill Vegapunk, right? So, I don't know what else. What does it need to be? That's what a fight is. I feel like people want really, really specific situations for something to count as a fight, or else they just, they don't. Like, I don't know. Mr. One wasn't trying to Mr. One wasn't trying to fight Zoro. He was trying to go kill Nami because the rule is to take out the weakest person first or something like that. I don't know. Like, you can always find some reason to argue that something wasn't a true fight because whatever. Like, it was a fight. It went on for like 3 chapters, 4 chapters. Come on. JWP, thanks for the 5. Where's Dragon LMFAO? Also, if you aged up Luffy to be strong enough, he'd probably be like 2 months older. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, just let the story naturally take him there. I don't think Dragon's supposed to show up here. I don't think this is his thing. I don't think this is his scene. I think this is Luffy's time, to do shit. You know, because Kuma, Luffy's time, right? I think Dragon coming in to save the day here would be really against the narrative so far. I feel like he has no place in this storyline. Akash Panda, thanks for the 5. Seeing Sindri's final moments, Chopper and Robin pondered whether a dead body could have a will of its own. Now Kuma, dead body, is using Haki, will. Great point. Great point. I'll be honest, I haven't gone back and read the Sindri scene in a long-ass time. Like, I'd say, if you ask me which arc I am most sketchy about finer details of like plot events, it would probably be, I'd say Thriller Bark might be up there. No, but now that I think about it, yeah, Thriller Bark is probably up there. Just because I don't find any of the things that happened before the Oars fight that worth revisiting. Zoro versus Ryuma is cool, I think. But that's not to say... Oh, Usopp Perona, actually, I think, is the highlight, even above Zoro Ryuma, from that section of the story. Great moment for Usopp. Attilio, thanks for the 5. Hi, Morj. How differently do you think things would pan out if Luffy was the one who touched Kuma's memory bubble? That's difficult to say. I think Luffy would be much more... Like, Luffy often misses backstories, but when he hears them, he is very emotionally moved. Like we saw when he did get to hear Odin's backstory in Act 1, and he was really pissed off by that. So if he was pissed off by Odin's backstory, I think he would go fucking nuts, getting to actually see all of Kuma's memories. That would be insane. So I think he'd be really pissed at Saturn. I think we'd see one of the angriest Luffys we've ever seen. Because when he does get... Especially because... Like, Luffy would get to see, it would be so personal to Luffy. He would get to see Luffy, like, Kuma getting to observe Luffy as a child. He would get to see Kuma's thought process as Kuma saved all of the Straw Hats. He would get to see Kuma's faith in him, everything that Kuma did for him. I think that it would bring out one of the most emotional, angry Luffys we've ever seen. Like, right up there with the Luffy that showed up at Enies Lobby, the Luffy that showed up to kick Arlong's ass, because he would just realize, like, that this guy Kuma, this bear guy, was basically Luffy's guardian angel throughout the story. Like, what he did for just protecting the Sunny, even, right? Like, this guy was as loyal to him, helped him as much as any member of his crew. So it would be really, really, really powerful, but obviously then Bonnie would have no idea what the fuck Kuma did, so it would be sad that she wouldn't get to see that. So it's more important that Bonnie got to see it, obviously, at the end of the day, but it's crazy to think about Luffy's reactions. Dimian Wright, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 4 months. Oh no, we covered this. Am I caught up at the moment? Almost. Jack D. Slime, thanks. Do you think Kuma's gift was an authority chip / tracker for Bonnie? An authority chip / tracker for Bonnie. That's interesting. That's interesting because the gift that he gave her hasn't actually come into play. I thought, I don't know. I figured we'd see it at the end of the arc, like her holding it or something like that. But that that would be an interesting little twist. Mark Ross, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 15 months. If Kizaru actually meant to kill Vegapunk, he wouldn't have missed the cloud cart. He shot a key across a battlefield at Marine Ford. He meant to miss. But that's like saying he could have just, like, that's One Piece plot stuff. Because at Marine Ford, he could also have just killed Luffy, like shot Luffy through the head instead of shooting the key, right? That's just plot stuff. Which is always, like, that's one of the big plot holes of Marine Ford, which is that Kizaru could have just killed Luffy. And by the way, this was Kizaru at a point in time where he very much would have killed Luffy, right? Like, he wasn't the type to, like, he was basically just like, yeah, you want me to execute pirates, I'll execute pirates. Like, he wasn't this really kind-hearted person who wouldn't just kill a pirate. Kizaru could have, he didn't have to shoot the key. Like, that's just plot stuff, right? Like, it's more dramatic if, like, oh no, Luffy doesn't have the key anymore. Oh, but Mr. 3 is there to create the key to fix things or whatever. It's like, well, Kizaru could have shot Luffy through the fucking head. But he didn't do that either. I don't know, by the way, though, if Kizaru means to kill Vegapunk or not. That's not the discussion here. It's entirely possible that Kizaru doesn't want to kill Vegapunk. But the question of, is he trying during his fight with Luffy? Like, did he allow Luffy to beat him, right? That's the question. That answer is no, because, and that will always be no, because we got the actual, like, you can't argue with Kizaru's own fucking thoughts. Like, no amount of your headcanon can negate the fact that we heard from Kizaru's own fucking mind that he did not want to lose to Luffy right there. He did not want to take that punch. It was not his intention to throw the fight to take that punch and pretend to go down. He got hit with the punch. He's like, this is not good. And then he goes down. Right? And it's not just like a casual, this is not good. This was like a, fuck, this is not good. Shit ton of exclamation points. He wasn't throwing the fight. It wasn't his intent to lose to Luffy. Caleb, like, you can argue how much he wanted to kill Vegapunk or not, because it's entirely possible that he secretly was never going to kill Vegapunk or was going to give Vegapunk an out. But you can't argue that Luffy's victory over him was something that Kizaru was just faking. Caleb, cool guy, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 8 months. Yo, Morj, need an opinion real quick. In my manga, I'm planning on the first couple of pages not focusing on the MC. As a reader, would you find that engaging? It depends. If you're writing for, I don't know you're saying it's a manga, right? Is it something that in your mind you're going to submit to like Shonen Jump or something? I have no idea about the process about any of that. All I know is that in something like a series like Shonen Jump or whatever, they probably traditionally want you to introduce your MC right away. That's just what I've seen personally in general. However, outside of the scope of what is the norm for that particular magazine that I've seen, I think in like a shit ton of story, like graphic novels, comics, other like seinen manga, I'm pretty sure, like, there's plenty of examples that you can find where it's almost more interesting not to have the main character in the first couple of pages. Like, you're talking about, you're not even talking about like the first chapter, you're saying the first couple of pages. Yeah, I think that's perfectly okay. Now, if you're trying to submit to somewhere really specific, then maybe you should look at the norms of that, of what gets published there, because maybe I don't even know if you can submit Shonen Jump or something like that as just a non-Japanese person. But I doubt that you could get away with not having the MC in the first couple pages of something like that. What is this? Oh, Ox Ward, thanks for the 5. With all the human experimentation talk, I think it's possible that Bonnie was the product of artificial insemination rather than outright rape. But I still think Ginny. But why? I mean, like, yeah, that's possible. But if Ginny was taken as a wife, then she would have been raped by some celestial dragon no matter what. So does it really matter if Bonnie was the product of artificial like if even the kid, if the kid was didn't happen to be the product of if the kid didn't happen to be a product of sex, that doesn't change the fact that Ginny was raped by some celestial dragon for a couple years. So I don't know if that makes that much of a difference. Akash Panda, thanks for the 2. Has it been 1 month since Hawkins' 1 month prediction? I don't even know, man. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That prediction is still baffling to me, but it is what it is. Okay. Jolly D. Joestar says JoJo Part 7 shows Johnny in the 3rd chapter. Yeah. But it's not. That's a seinen. Jack D. Slime is saying Kingdom starts with that other motherfucker. Yeah, but that's a seinen. I think they're asking more so for shonen. Well, actually, that's a huge assumption. I have no idea. I think because One Piece is a shonen, I kind of assume that if someone's coming in talking about a manga, that they're also a shonen fan. But yeah, I think most series it's very common. Like, especially once you get out of the realm of manga, so many series start without the first chapters even focusing on the main character. Raffy the Goat says might not want to say graped so stream doesn't get demonetized. I haven't really seen that happen, to be honest, but I understand it does happen. All right, let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick. Let's get the stream likes up to 300. Checking one thing. Will Dragon come to Egghead? I just don't think I don't know what Dragon's place in Egghead necessarily is, but Dragon was being like Vegapunk did talk to Dragon at the beginning of the arc, so it would be cool to see Dragon show up here. But I just don't know if Dragon has a huge place here in this arc. Like, it doesn't feel like he was always kind of detached from the Bonnie and Kuma story. So to me, it's kind of like if he's kind of detached from the Bonnie and Kuma story, then like it feels almost wrong for him to be the one to come in and save the day at some point. And okay. Jack D. Slime says Kingdom isn't a shonen. As far as I know, Kingdom isn't published in shonen manga. Uncle Det says Morj shave fam, you looking homeless. I did not shave the entire time I was in Malaysia. I will shave probably tomorrow. I was gonna shave. I had so many plans for today because you lose so much time on a plane. Like, you just lose time. Like, sorry, while traveling overseas, right? So not just on the plane. You just lose time because the whole trip from me leaving the apartment in Malaysia to me getting back to my apartment here was like 45 hours. Just because there was a shit ton of flight. Like, I had to do multiple flights, time between flights, layovers, etc. You just lose time. You can't really do that much productive on a plane. Airports, sometimes the Wi-Fi is bad. You can't find places to sit. You got to do other shit, take care of other shit or whatever. So I was so determined as soon as I would get back here that I would be super productive today. I was like, I'm gonna do all my errands. I'm gonna take care of a bunch of stuff. Today was just bad. I needed to sleep. I did not shave. I was planning to shave. I was planning to go to the gym today. I haven't been to the gym in like 3 weeks now. Because I was in Malaysia, maybe 3 weeks is an exaggeration. But, yeah. I don't know if I could even lift this microphone at this point. I feel so out of shape. Malaysia dollar merchant. Yeah, stuff is cheaper in Malaysia, but it's not that much. It's significantly cheaper. It is significantly cheaper, but it tricked me into doing things that I wouldn't otherwise have done. Because I was in the mode of basically like, oh, I'll just... like, I can spend money very freely. I covered, like, several meals for my family and stuff like that. And I was like, not even checking cash. I was just like, oh, this is no problem. This is no problem. This is no problem. And then at a certain point, I was like, wait a second. Let me take a look at some of what I've been spent. Oh shit, it does add up. Kosh Panda says no more. I was saying it has been 1 month. Has it been 1 month though? Because okay, so Wano took place over 2 weeks, right? It was 2 weeks, and then post Wano was like a week. So it's almost like I feel like it's almost been a 1 month. I don't think it's been a month. Daniel says pet peeve: the whole ants shtick makes me groan. I'm so above ants and don't understand them, but I'm also communicating with these ants. I don't think Saturn needed to bring up the insect thing again, just because I think it's a little bit like I think saying it once is good because it gives you the perspective of what the celestial dragons like, what someone like Gorosei Saturn is really like. Because again, for a long time, it was unclear to a lot of readers just how bad, like if the celestial dragon, if the Gorosei are just as bad as the other celestial dragons, because they never really gave up. Like none of us even knew the Gorosei are celestial dragons till it was eventually confirmed, because they just seemed so for a long time they just seemed so drastically different. For a long time we only had one flavor of celestial dragon, and that was the the dummy pompous ones that acted like spoiled brats, which was the ones that showed up at Saboti, and we see a bit of those outside of them, right? Then the Gorosei just seemed like such professional, logical characters, right? They even, like, they're clearly bad. They ordered the genocide of Ohara, but they almost seemed like almost pained to have to make that decision. There was discussion about what the Gorosei are really like, right? We knew they were bad. We didn't think they were celestial, like necessarily as cartoonishly evil as the rest of the celestial dragons, right? The Saturn line, where he first mentions that he views them as insects, that was a big one, because that basically establishes that he is exactly like the rest of the celestial dragons. It's just that he's really dangerous and he wields a lot more power than the rest of them, which is a terrible combination, right? So, I don't think you need to keep saying that again, as it just gets a little, I don't know, too on the nose at a certain point. Wade Turner says, Morj, how was the food? I liked Malaysian food a lot more than I expected. Because I say that because I don't normally, I don't know. Yeah, it's not the type of cuisine, like just from pictures and stuff, that I normally tend to like that much. But when I went there, I really really liked a lot of their food. I think beef rendang was my favorite. And there's nothing like that really here, so sucks, but it is what it is. Um, Also, I liked a lot of, like, I would get like bolo baos from the street cart that was in the market right where near my apartment was, my mom's apartment was. So there's a lot of stuff I really like there. Patrick Kovachev, thanks for joining the Yonko. Hope you enjoyed. Check out the podcast that comes out tomorrow. Timothy McQueen, thanks for the 5. Hey Morj, guess the top 5 longest flashbacks and I'll super chat you the answer. Sure, I can guess. Um, Top 5 longest flashbacks. My guesses would be, I think the Odin flashback has to be, okay, hold on. Odin flashback has to be in there because it's like, that's like 10 chapters, right? Odin flashback. I want to say Nolan Kalgara isn't. Do you count Otahime and Fisher Tiger as one continuous flashback? If you count them as one continuous flashback, I imagine that they're in there. I think Robin's flashback is in there. I think this flashback was 8 chapters, so I think this flashback, the Kuma flashback, is in there. I feel like Law's flashback is in there, because Law's flashback also encompasses Doflamingo. So I think the Law flashback just about makes it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's major. I don't know if Nolan Kolgara makes it. I'm gonna leave that out. Yeah, so I think that's my final answer. Final answer is Robin flashback, Kuma flashback, Odin flashback. This is not in order. Um, Fisher Tiger and Otahime together if we include them. Law. And I guess if not Fisher Tiger Otahime together, then maybe Nolan Kogara gets in there. Oh, ASL flashback. I forgot about that one. I consistently forget about the ASL flashback just because I know it's a really important flashback, but it doesn't even come to mind when I think about best flashbacks in One Piece. It doesn't even, I barely remember it. No, like I remember the full flashback and everything that happens in it, but I don't really, like, it's not, I don't even remember it when I think of important flashbacks because it's just not a flashback it just doesn't do that much for me. I feel like it just doesn't do that much for me because the most dramatic thing is Ace has already died. It's sad because it's Luffy's most important, like it's the most important thing for getting to know Luffy better, but I just don't think the plot of it was that interesting. It's good for getting, like, for the themes of the story and stuff like that. The dramatic thing, Ace's death has already happened. And I think it's the first time that we're getting a flashback, a long flashback after the really hype events of the arc. So it's kind of like, I'm not even in the mode to be reading a flashback right then. I think it's, I almost felt like it's just to... yeah, I feel like it was almost just to, like, we had to learn it and we had to get that context. And it was better to do it than to interrupt the flow of the story to have it before Marineford. But yeah, just it's not that sad. It's not that sad of a flashback, right? So it doesn't have that going forward. It doesn't have a bunch of hype stuff or really cool lore like the Odin flashback. I just don't think the story's that powerful like Nolan Kogara. Yeah, I don't think it does that much for me. Yeah, okay. Wade Turner says it's confirmed Morj hates Sabo. I didn't like that flashback. Didn't really make me like Sabo either. I just didn't. There was nothing in there that really made him a cool. Like it just felt like a third character for the sake of a third character almost because Ace and Luffy were much more interesting than Sabo as kids. Sabo, even at that age, he felt like kind of like, I know Luffy was treated as the third wheel in that group, but Luffy's the main character. So for me, Sabo felt like the third wheel of that group. It's taken a long time for me to slowly get interested in Sabo's character. Patrick Kavakchov says, Yo, Morj, I could be mistaken. Thanks again for joining just now, Zionko. But I don't think we've seen a Devil Fruit user paralyzed by Saturn. At the same time, Luffy, Kuma, and Bonnie seem unaffected. Copium for Sanji or an actual theory? Oh, I wouldn't like it if, like, being a Devil Fruit user is the key to not being stopped by it. I think I don't know if Saturn used it on... Let me take a look. Let's take a look at the chapters again. I can't share because you just don't screen share chapters when a chapter just came out. It's risky, but let's see. So, what exactly does Saturn do here? In chapter... Ooh, whoops. Almost closed the stream. Misclicked right there. Chapter 1094, Saturn appears. Bonnie runs at him, stabs him. And then what happens? Runs at him, stabs him. Then he uses some ability, hits Bonnie. Hits Sanji with the ability. Frankie gets away. So he doesn't even hit Frankie with an ability. It's just that Frankie suddenly can't move either. So I think Saturn is selectively choosing who to use the ability on, from what I can tell. Timothy McQueen, thank you for coming through with the answers. And I appreciate the follow-up. Odin, longest, that makes sense. Luffy's 124 pages. Oh, you went by page count. Interesting. Yeah, I totally forgot ASL. Robin, yep. Jaya, okay, so I count that as Nolan Kolgara. Kuma's, yep. Jinbei's. Okay, so Fisher Tiger Otahime. So I was pretty close. What were my guesses? I think I'd thrown Law in there. I think I threw Law in there. I might have overestimated Law's length, backstory length. I feel like there's one other long flashback that I'm forgetting. But no, because Nami's wasn't that long in the grand scheme of things. And even Chopper's would probably... I feel like Law's and then Chopper's would probably be the next order. Oh, Sanji's. That's what I was forgetting. I feel like Sanji's second flashback was fairly long. Planet Dark says he forgot Vegapunk has a fruit. That's wild. I forgot Vegapunk has a fruit. We all forget, but Vegapunk isn't that smart. He's just a cheater. Just kidding. He probably is that smart even without the fruit. He probably is really smart even without the fruit. It's just like, with the fruit, it goes from like world's smartest scientist to super scientist. Yeah, I forgot about Vegapunk having the fruit. J Press P, thanks for the 5. Do you think Bonnie can have a second devil fruit? What do you think about her inheriting the paw fruit? No, I still don't think she can have a second fruit. As far as we know, there's no reason that you can have a second fruit. Maybe being a buccaneer is the answer. Buccaneers can have multiple fruits, but she doesn't have the blood of a buccaneer either. So, what happens to the paw fruit? I've always said I hope the paw fruit goes to Vivi. Now, I haven't always said that, but if you go back, like, as of late, in the last several months, that became my belief. Drink some water. I still have this cough. I have this cough, and I think that I just need one really long night of rest, basically, because I haven't got over the plane travel. I got very little sleep. Like, I'd say across the 40-ish 45-minute basically journey, I probably got to, like, between driving, plane, layovers, another plane, layover, blah, 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 blah. Between all of the legs of the journey, I probably slept for about 4 hours. Maybe 5-6 hours total, if you count, like, brief 30-minute naps. So I need a long night's sleep. I got some good sleep tonight, but last night, like, once I got here, but I need a really long night of sleep. Oreo, thanks for the 5. By Luffy being built up the most, I really mean how Saturn caused Kuma suffering and how Nika is free and save him. So really, I mean Nika versus Saturn, I guess. Oh, by that context, I could say I could see, yeah. Yeah, okay. From the emotional standpoint of the suffering you've seen this character go through, and just wanting to see the cause of that suffering be dealt justice, I could see Saturn being up there. I felt something similar with, like, Arlong and Nami. I think I felt it more with Arlong and Nami because Saturn, even in the context of Kuma's flashback, he wasn't super present, right? We understood that he was the cause of several things, but he wasn't really the main force throughout the flashback, right? We now understand that he was the root cause of all things. With the Arlong backstory, it really was, like, we got that full extended scene of Arlong just, like, torturing the villagers, torturing Nami's mom in front of her, like, having them beat down the villagers in front of Nami, and what they did again, and, like, killing Nami's mom in front of her. So Arlong was just more of a present force during that flashback, which made me feel even more hate towards Arlong than I did right now towards Saturn. No, I mean, I really don't like... It's calm. I just wanted to see Luffy beat Arlong even more than I want to see him beat Saturn right now, but it's like comparing two things that are basically... Like, it's not like one is much more whatever than the other. It's just, I still feel like Luffy busting in and saying, like, which one of you is Arlong, for me, that was, to date, my favorite moment of Luffy showing up to beat up a bad guy. Like, getting back up to beat up a bad guy, just because we'd visually seen so much pain that Arlong had just caused to this character that we cared so much about. Um, yeah, I'd say that's still number one for me, but like wanting to see Luffy beat Saturn is really really high up there for sure. Definitely much more than like Luffy versus Kaido because like I don't think Luffy's gonna be laughing around and joking and buddy buddy with Saturn for the rest of this fight. Like Kaido just had a very different vibe. Kaido was fucking apologetic for what he did to Oda. It was mainly Orochi that was the real nasty figure in Wano, which was deliberate on Oda's part, obviously. So that wasn't really the role that Kaido was meant to play. I'd say Doflamingo was the last real like conniving, heartless, evil villain that we had in the story that we really wanted to see Luffy like kick his ass. And what do you know? Doflamingo is also a celestial dragon, so it kind of fits. The Final Storm, thanks for the 5. You realize that Saturn used a devil fruits extract like you wanted to do with 2 devil... Okay, like you wanted to do with 2 devil fruits extract juices during the Killing the Straw Hat stream, lol. Yeah, so this is... Okay, so this does complicate that stream slightly, alright? So people don't know this, we did a stream a little while ago talking about how we would kill all of the Straw Hats if we had to, how we would plot their demise if we were hired to do it, with limited budgets, granted. First, let's get the stream likes to 300 while I explain this. So, one of the backup options was basically, like, you all know that if you kill... the easiest way to kill a devil fruit user is to feed them another devil fruit, right? They automatically die, right? It's not like seawater where technically they could hold their breath or some shit for some while and maybe get saved. You eat another devil fruit, you die. But what about characters who haven't eaten a devil fruit already, right? What about normal people? What if you want to kill Zoro? Well, the trick is you create basically a smoothie of sorts of 2 devil fruits, and you have them drink the juice of 2 devil fruits, and that ought to do the job. So, what we just learned this chapter is it's tricky because the chapter actually confirms that this is perfectly plausible. The extract of devil fruits does have the same effect of devil fruits. So you can create a 2 devil fruit smoothie that can kill basically anyone. The perfect poison in the world if you create that and just feed it to anybody. You could feed it to anybody that's considered a major threat and they would die, right? Even if they don't have a devil fruit already. It's the perfect poison because it works on any character except Blackbeard. The problem now, though, is that it seems as though it requires a lot of developed science, advanced science. Like, Saturn's been around for God knows how long, and it seems like only recently he's been able to figure out how to extract this devil fruit juice to feed it in juice form or extract form rather than as a physical fruit. So, it does mean that we would not be able to use the juice of 2 devil fruit strategy to kill any of the normal Straw Hats because we just don't have access to that sort of science. Like, I don't know what the fuck Saturn did, It's not like I can pay somebody to do it because Saturn seems like the only person that has this knowledge. So, it does complicate that. However, the good news is that I don't believe that any of the plans relied upon creating that devil fruit smoothie. None of the plans relied on it. It was just a really good backup option. Like, we had a plan which was like, kill Zoro by like you knock him out. The explanation for knocking him out, you'll have to go look at that video, but it's very doable. You knock him out and then throw his body into a volcano. That no longer, and we said the backup would be if you can't throw him into a volcano to kill him, we just feed him the juice of 2 devil fruits, a devil fruit smoothie. Now we know we no longer have that backup option. So the good news is the devil fruit smoothie thing. Okay. Good news number 1, devil fruit smoothie thing as a way to kill people, confirmed. Bad news is that we would have no way to do it. We wouldn't have the resources to do it. Follow-up good news is that the devil fruit smoothie was never the plan A for any of the characters. I don't think that was required to kill any of the characters. It was just it was just a way to do it. So, all in all, we've made some interesting progress. We've learned a lot here in the name of science. Ramen Stains, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 15 months. Hey Morj and Boo. Haven't been tuning into streams much lately. I think it's 90% Bonnie Nakama and 50% on a new Vegapunk / Kizaru sent pirate crew after this chapter. Oh, that's a cool idea. I had to process that for a moment. Sent as in Sentamaru. So you're like, oh shit, if like, I didn't even think about that. Like, imagine Kizaru, Sentamaru, and Vegapunk, or like, let's say Kizaru and Sentamaru having to quit the Marines after this shit and like take to the seas as pirates, essentially. Yeah, Bonnie could go with them. That would be so. That would be so fucking random, but interesting. Like, think about that. Bonnie is like a member of Kizaru and Sentamaru's crew. Who the fuck? I don't think there'd be a person in the world, a One Piece fan in the world, who could predict something like that. That's such a cool idea. I mean, technically you just did if it happened, but I don't think anybody ever had that on their list of possibilities back in the day. Let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick. Oreo, thanks for the two potential Bonnie and Luffy Gear 5 tag team fight. Oh, that'd be cool as shit. I wonder how strong Bonnie is at, like, when she's trying, you know? Like, we saw her take out a Cypher Pole agent. That was two years ago. It wasn't like a CP9 agent. I think it was CP8, if I remember correctly. But still, Cypher Pole. I wonder how strong she is at this point. Like, who could she... We have no real context because she hasn't fought anybody. It seemed like she struggled against when a Vice Admiral showed up, but she didn't really get to fight that Vice Admiral, like with her Nika abilities and stuff like that. It's hard to tell with Bonnie what her upper range is of what you can do. Yeah, some of those plans got dark. Wade Turner saying I had nothing to do with any of those plans. Yeah, you don't want to be associated with those plans. Some of those plans got kind of dark. Darkest says Morj ahead of Saturn. Yeah. It took Saturn, what, a couple centuries to figure that, to try and think about that? Volta says also the most expensive poison. There are many fruits, but not to spare. That's true, but you could kill a weak devil fruit user to get a fruit if needed. Again, this is all hypothetical for the plan, right? I should have said that at the beginning of that stream because a lot of people got really upset. But it's a morals off scenario. It's a morals off plan. This is purely hypothetical, right? We're not going to do any of this shit. None of these characters are real. We're not going to kill anybody at the end of the day. But morals off, if we needed to, we could do a lot, you know? We could get our hands on some devil fruits if needed. Bonnie will be a revolutionary. Yeah, that's the other option, I think. Yusuf says Bonnie was trying against Saturn. I mean, trying against, like... trying against somebody that it's two things, right? Saturn is Saturn. Like, that's just like a whole you can't scale against Saturn, right? Like, if you tried to scale, like, by that logic, it's like if the only time we ever got to see Sanji fight was against Saturn, then we'd just be like, oh shit, like we have no context of, like, we would have no way to place him, you know what I mean? We would have no idea that he can beat a Yonko commander or something like that, because Saturn's just too strong. You can't scale anything off of that. So I mean, like, we've never gotten to see Bonnie against anyone that's like a legitimate opponent, not just somebody that can defeat you just by looking at you, you know? And the other thing is that's mentioned is that Bonnie can't use her abilities. Bonnie can't use her abilities to their fullest right now because she's starting to have doubts about Nika, right? So I guess that's what I mean, right? We haven't really seen, one, we haven't seen Bonnie against someone that we can actually scale her against, and two, we're not seeing her with the full potential for her abilities because her faith and her beliefs have been kind of stunted now in a way recently, just because life has beaten down on her. So the positive futures, the endless futures that she can kind of imagine, have seemingly been suppressed to a degree. So I would love to see a reinvigorated Bonnie, which she could do. Prophet says Baby 5 versus Bonnie would be decent, in my opinion. I think Bonnie can do better than that. I don't know. OP Espresso says, if Batman were a Straw Hat, here's the contingency plans. Ha ha ha. Here's the thing. I think we would do a lot better than Batman against the Straw Hats, even if Batman had access to reading the manga. The reason is that Batman, his rule is that he never kills, right? He never kills. So he would have to concoct plans to to, even if he had created plans to kill, like technically his plans were to kill the Justice League members, but what I mean is that Batman has morals, so he would never create plans that include the death of innocent people, like civilians and stuff like that, or kids. And the plans that we created, they involved, some of them, I think only one or two of them, so pat on the back for us, only one or two of them, did involve the possibility of having to kill some children to make things work. Don't ask why, just go watch the VOD. But, we had morals off for that. I don't think Batman would have been able to come up with some of those plans. One of the plans was even just like having paying a dude to try and attack Zorro with the full expectation that Zorro would kill that dude. Batman wouldn't come up with a plan like that. He wouldn't come up with a plan where, people have to die to make it work, Ramen Stains, thanks for the 5. You only need 2 fruits so long as you get them as soon as they regenerate. Yeah, it's expensive at first, but could end up killing everyone one at a time. Yeah, that's true, but the rule that we kind of had was like, you can't really carry over items and resources from one straw hat to another. It makes things a bit too easy. Because it's like, let's say we kill one of the Straw Hats and then, we could use their dead body as some sort of a bait or something like that for another Straw Hat. It becomes kind of cheating, I think. Or you could kill Frankie first and then, his whole body is like a gold mine of resources and materials that you could maybe sell and then, make a lot of money off of, and that funds your future Straw Hat killing endeavors. It just makes it a little unfair. So we tried to make it as fair as possible. We set a set budget for each Straw Hat, and these deaths, these murders have to happen independent of each other. Odeko says, cut to Batman watching cut to Batman watching a 12-hour Brago power level stream to get ideas on how to take out Nico Robin. Nico Robin was a tough one. I did figure out Jinbei later on, though, because we couldn't figure out Jinbei during the stream. The answer to Jinbei was, you need to find an innocent sea kitten, because there's a cover story of Jinbei helping out an innocent sea kitten. So, that establishes that Jinbei, in character, would, if he came across a sea kitten in help, he would help that sea kitten out, right? Befriend it, help it out, try to do nice stuff for it. So that's a weakness of Jinbei's that we could exploit. We would most likely put a bomb inside the sea kitten and then blow it up. Oh, man. Derek Miles says Saturn got that hogback energy. Dude, it's crazy how much Thriller Bark, hinted at future shit for, everybody said it was Wano, but then I remember someone started talking about how much Thriller Bark hinted at Egghead, and it really hints at Egghead. The Seraphim situation, the free will situation, Hogback and Saturn, stuff like that. There's so many similarities. The Final Storm, thanks for the 5. Would you give us your thoughts or should we expect a future video on the potential of Mad D-Monk Yuruj? I pray Oda does him justice. I don't have thoughts on him. The two things that the only thoughts that I had were basically, either Oda never had a clear plan for him, kind of like, let's say, Apu and Hawkins and shit. He kind of was just like, I'll throw him in and we'll make it work later on. And Oda straight up at this point has next to nothing for him and has Yuruj just sitting up on a cloud, and Oda might force him in at some point later for a very minor role. That's option 1. Option 2 is that Yuruj is more like Bonnie, and that Yuruj is way more significant than most of the other supernovas, and that Oda did have crazy interesting plans for him from the start. In that regard, I think that it would have to be something related to lore and Sky People stuff, and that's why Yuruj has been saved for the final saga. Just because his story and the backstory behind it or whatever is too significant to get him too early in the story. It would tell too much, reveal too much or something. That's my guess. Kylo D. Swaggly Puff, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 2 months. Hey Morj, kinda late, but that Kuma video on where he sent the Straw Hats was awesome. The last few chapters contextualizes the video beautifully. I think that's a video that ages really, really, really well. It was like, what was the video called? Let me see. I think it's a fun video to look back on. Let me see. The hidden genius of how Kuma chose the Straw Hats Islands. I feel like everything I said in that was basically true. Like, I said a lot of it before we actually got the chapters showcasing Kuma's it was a video basically like talking through Kuma's perspective when he was teleporting all the Straw Hats and how it's so much more interesting now that we know the rest of his story. And then later on, we got the actual chapters that showed us his perspective, both while teleporting the Straw Hats and the chapters beforehand where he reached the given islands and kind of observed like Mihawk's Island, Tequila Wolf, and stuff like that, and where he got the ideas of where to send the Straw Hats in the future. So I think it's a video that ages remarkably well. I would recommend people to check it out after this if you want. If you really like Kuma's story and want to hear more stuff about it. Disaster Master, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 5 months. Hi Morj, glad to catch the stream. Slammed hard. Need commas. This is why we need commas. Slammed hard skating yesterday. Or do you need... No, you don't need a comma there. Slammed hard skating. You need a word, which was you need words. So I guess it's just the fact that you're just throwing out the phrase. You should say, I slammed hard skating yesterday and sprained my wrist a little. And I just booked a last-minute New Year's... Oh, shit. And you just booked a last-minute New Year's Eve show for your band? First of all, congratulations on the show. But second of all, what instrument do you play? Please tell me you're just like the singer or something. Not just the singer. Singer's obviously fucking important, but like, I mean, in relationship to you not being able to use your wrist too well. Yeah, what do you play? Are you a singer or are you a musician? If you're a singer, you're probably fine. If you're a musician, let me think, because I used to play guitar. Fun fact, not very, very little known Morj fact. I played guitar for 7 years from like 2nd grade to 9th grade. And then I dropped it after 9th grade. Want to know why I dropped it after 9th grade? Because I peaked while we wait for Disaster Master to give us his info. Oh, he's a guitarist and vocalist. Okay, let me think. I'm playing guitar. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Either way, it fucking hurts. I think you can get a... I don't know how you're going to do that, man. Well, do you play... Okay, so you play with a pick or just fingers? I assume you play with a pick. I assume you're, like... I played classical guitar for a lot of it. So that's the only reason I'm asking why. But obviously you're not a classical guitarist, right? But I dropped guitar. So, like, first of all, I hated playing guitar. Just because you had to, like... It felt like work and not fun for me because you had to like practice and stuff like I was being paid for lessons to learn classical guitar growing up, so I did not want as a kid you never want extra homework, you just don't. So it's not like I picked it up as a hobby. Maybe if I picked it up just as a hobby later I would have enjoyed it, but classical guitar, didn't like it for like years, didn't like having to do it for years. And then in middle school, at my middle school, like while I was in middle school, like my school went through a wave where like I guess all middle school this happens where just like old like classic rock and stuff just becomes is really popular and it's a cool thing, and like Guns N' Roses and shit like that is like what people like it's cool to wear shirts of and stuff. And my school just started getting lots of like rock bands together around that time. Like kids just started making bands, and then like my school even organized like a whole battle of the bands because like there was so much interest going on at that period of time. And so right then I was like, wait, I know guitar. So I switched over to learning rock instead of classical for like a little bit. Like I still had classical lessons, so I had like a really good background, but I just learned how to play with picks and everything like that, which was an easy transition for me because I had the framework. And so for like 2 straight years, 7th and 8th grade, playing guitar was really, really cool, and I was very obsessive with it. Like I was really obsessive with it, and I practiced a lot, and I played like I would just learn song after song. So for a little bit, it was really, really cool to be like the guitarist in the band, playing the battle of the bands and stuff like that. And then I got to high school, and then suddenly it wasn't cool anymore. It wasn't really a thing. So then in ninth grade, I just straight up dropped. I was like, no more guitar. Like, it was literally like, I don't want to play with you anymore. Because I'm like at that age, your parents, like, I complained enough to my parents, like, I don't want to keep going to classical guitar lessons. I'm bored of this now. And then I didn't have the personal hobby interest in doing it either, because I'm just like, do I even like this music that much? Or am I doing it because it's like a socially cool thing to do in middle school? And I was like, it's the latter, basically. So I dropped guitar then as well. Yeah, so that's the full story. Anyway. Sid P, thanks. Lord, still sad the raid didn't fail. What the fuck? This. What did I even say that led to this? Ramen Stains, thanks for the 2. Thriller Bark shits on Skypiea in terms of foreshadowing. It's much more explicit. Well, no, I mean, it's like, I just think that the stuff that Skypiea foreshadowed is more it's more interesting since it goes to the lore of the One Piece world, which is the stuff that we really, really want to know more about. The lore and themes of the One Piece world and like what the entire story is about. Like, Thriller Bark foreshadowing, I think a lot of it was just, it's cool in retrospect, like, oh, this arc featured this, and now this arc features this, right? But I think, like, teasing a lot of the plot elements that we're going to get in a more interesting way later on down the line in arcs like Wano and Egghead Island, I just don't like, we could have just not had Thriller Bark at all, and I don't think Wano and Egghead would be different in any way, or we would look at it different in any way. Whereas with Skypiea, I feel like you kind of need a lot of the groundwork that it laid. Like, you need the groundwork laid of like the sun god, what Luffy represents, the idea of taking on God, etc. You need those ideas written into the story earlier on. The idea that Luffy is God's natural enemy. So it feels less random when, like, we're super deep into the story and suddenly it starts turning into this stuff about, like, defeating God and, like, Luffy being the sun god and, you know, like, the moon and things like that. Otherwise, it would feel like a lot of it's coming out of nowhere and One Piece is kind of forcing something that it didn't build up earlier on, you know? Disaster Master says, pick, fingerstyle, two-hand tapping, etc. I do all of it. Okay, so, tapping, I feel like tapping I never got good at. And that was really frustrating for me because I was like, is it like a time thing? Should I practice more? I don't know. But, tapping is pretty sexy. Like, if you can do finger tapping. And for whatever reason, like, I could transfer from, I could play classical with my fingers really well. I could play with a pick pretty well. But I just couldn't get down two-hand tapping. And it was really frustrating for me because, like, I had a friend at the time who was a drummer, and he was just a drummer and he fucked around with the guitar, but it wasn't really his thing. But he was really fucking good at tapping for no reason at all, like finger tapping. He was just really, really good at it, and it's just a cool skill to have. I was like, why is he just randomly so good at this? Like, why is he randomly, like, really good at the one thing that I would, because it's a really flashy thing to do, and, like, no matter what, you look like a really high-level guitarist if you could do two-hand tapping. Like, it looks sick. And it sounds really good, too. But it's more of, like, a random niche skill. And, like, he was just able to do that for no real reason whatsoever. And I was like, what the fuck? Why is this... Why is he able to do that? And, like, every other good guitarist that I knew back then, not that my school had, like, a bunch, but, like, there were 2 other guitarists that I thought were pretty good. The editor for this channel, actually, who I was still friends with back then. Like, I think I kind of started becoming friends with him in middle school. Like, I've known him for forever. He's a really, really good guitarist. But I think he also dropped it at some point in high. Like, he kept with it for a long time. And his band actually got, like, fairly successful later on in high school and stuff. But he's, like, a crazy, crazy good guitarist. Like, think of the fucking hardest guitar song that you can think of, and he could learn it in, like... He could learn it in a day, no problem, probably. I don't know if he's still that good. I haven't really asked him if he still plays guitar or whatever. But yeah, he was really good at tapping as well. I don't know. Finger tapping is a great skill. But yeah, man. Sorry, I don't know how you're gonna play guitar with a hurt wrist. Pina, thanks for the 2. Morj, what was your favorite 2023 movie? Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you guys too. Also, I'm gonna call the stream in about 5-10 minutes. Probably 5 minutes. I didn't realize it's gone on this long. My favorite 2023 movie. Oh, Godzilla minus one. Easily Godzilla minus one. Really like that. Easily Godzilla minus one. I saw some movies on the plane. What did I see on the plane? What did I see on the plane? I think I just saw some random shit on the plane. I don't think I saw anything good. Oh, I saw The Joker on the plane. That wasn't. I don't think that was to here. I think that was. Oh, that was probably my trip coming back home from Maryland. I don't think that was here. Saw that a while ago. Ramen Stains, thanks for the 2. You think the Marines' raid on Egghead will fail? I don't think they will successfully capture the Straw Hats, so I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe they recover a lot of Vegapunk's assets, so maybe that will be a success. Do I think that they kill Vegapunk? I think the biggest mystery of the arc is whether or not... Biggest question mark, I think... Because I think a lot of the characters fall in the yes or no category if they're going to die, right? Straw Hats will live. Bonnie will live. Kuma, I think, is very likely to die, right? I think there's a small chance that Kizaru dies in some sort of a sacrificial moment. Small chance. And then Vegapunk's the big question mark. Because Vegapunk, he opens the arc talking about death, but it's like, oh, was that just Shaka? And Shaka does die. Is Vegapunk going to make it out alive out of this? I mean, he's a very valuable figure. He knows how to make the mother flames and stuff like that, which is a very dangerous ability. I don't know. Vegapunk, I think there's a strong shot that he might not make it out. I haven't seen Spider-Verse. Oh, hot take. I did not think the new Miyazaki movie is good. I'd say out of all of the Miyazaki movies that I've seen, I would rank this the lowest, personally. Oreo, thanks for the 2. Will Dragon deal with the Blackbeard Pirates? I don't think... I feel like that's... I mean, the Blackbeard Pirates and Dragon have fought before. But it just feels kind of random to me for Dragon to be fighting the Blackbeard Pirates here. Like, just feels separated from Bonnie and Kuma's story. Would he fight the Blackbeard Pirates to get his hands on Vegapunk's assets? I don't know. Oh, people upset that I didn't like Miyazaki's movie. I do think that Miyazaki might be in a space right now where if it was a different director on the name, a different director, it would not be getting the praise that it's getting. Yeah. Why is Here 66 says I love the boy and the heron. That movie is a weird trip. It's one thing if you want to just enjoy the movie as a weird trip, but it clearly tries to be something more. I think thematically, I think the story it goes for is very, very poorly constructed. There's very little reason to care about anything that happens in that story, in that movie. If you want to enjoy, and then the flip side is if you want to enjoy it just as a weird trip, I don't think it's that well done compared to a lot of what he's able to pull off visually, conceptually, fantastically in previous films. I don't think there's that much evolution there for him as an artist. I think even as a weird trip, it's not that weird of a trip. Like, I don't think it does that much in either category. Like, I think story-wise, it is very, very weak. I think thematically, you get what it's going for, and it's just not that deep or fleshed out or interesting or presenting in a weird way. As a story, it's very loosely plotted together. To the point that like its conclusion is downright silly, where it's like the story is not the strength, right? You could argue that story is very often not his priority in many of his movies, but in this one I think it particularly shown. And then I think the flip side is just the fantasy world that he created and what was presented to us just in terms of the just the more abstract nature of it. I don't think that matches a lot of the imagination that he has shown in past films either. So on both ends, I'm just like, I don't really see anything special about this one at all. Yokai Gota says Spirited Away was also a weird trip. Yes, but it was much more engaging. I found the main character to be much more engaging. And then the actual world that we were taken through, the actual trip, I found to be far more imaginative, visually impressive, um, fantastical than any of this. It's okay for a movie to focus on um, that over story, but this one did try to put some story together that was very, very poorly done. And then the actual the whimsical fantasy elements of it were like, it's nothing new almost from this director at this point, and it's not as good as what we've seen before. So I'm just like, where is the strength in this? Like, I felt like I'd wasted 2 hours of my time basically, and I went in expecting to be blown away. Like, I went in with very, very positive expectations for this. Like, I went in fully ready to welcome it, because I thought the trailer was really, really fascinating. And then I kind of watched and I was like, okay, the trailer made it much, much more. The trailer was much more captivating than anything that we got out of the movie. Hoogie says, Howl's Moving Castle has shitty plot. Yes, but I do think the dynamics between the characters are much more interesting. And I think that, again, you're going along with a lot more of the whimsical nature of it. Kind of, it's a loose story, but you're being drawn into this sort of uh, this sort of pieced together dreamlike adventure that the main character is having. And again, the dynamic between the characters is much better. I found no interesting dynamic whatsoever between the main character was not interesting. No interactions he had with any other characters or bonds that he made or just anything that he had with any other character was that interesting, or that engaging to me. Especially because the characters come and go quite a bit, so you can't really build off of anything. Even the quote unquote like heron, the boy and the heron, his counterpart to it, like the heron and the boy, their dynamic I'd say is like not something that was barely, if at all, a regular staple throughout the movie. So I don't know. Disaster Master, thanks for the two. Does that make Miyazaki the Kojima of anime movies? I don't think I've seen enough of anime movies to have any sort of say on like the directors or anything like that. So I don't know. Sakamoto Days. I might check those out. Oh, the Japanese title is How Do You Live? Then why the fuck is the English title The Boy and the Heron? That's so off base from, because the heron's really, really, really not important. The heron, no, I won't spoil anything, but I don't think it's spoiling much to say that the heron's not important. Um, yeah, I don't think it's spoiling much to say that the heron's not too important. I think people are arguing like plot points versus like plot versus artistry, and that's definitely true. Like, plot is not the only thing that matters, and artistry matters a great, like, those two things have to merge together really well, or not even, like, plot can be significantly less put together than the artistry and filmmaking and presentation around it and just the more abstract ideas. That's totally fine. But then you can't just, you really need that side of it to be like 10 out of 10 basically, right? If you're not giving the viewers that strong of a story, you need everything else, right, to be as creative, as artistically profound, as captivating as possible. I don't think The Boy and the Heron did that nearly as well as it needed to make up for like the eye-rolling nature of the plot basically. So that's where I'm at. So I don't really recommend Boy and the Heron to anybody. But obviously Miyazaki fans, like, this is not to say anything against Miyazaki because he's got so many other fantastic movies. It's just I don't think this is one of them. I do think there are certain we know certain directors who they're gonna get sucked off no matter what, just because of their name. Like if Tarantino could put out anything tomorrow, people would just be like, it's Tarantino, it's whatever. Scorsese can put out anything. My parents said Killers of the Flower Moon was ass, by the way, my family. So I don't know if they're the best people to judge off, but I'm not gonna watch it. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not, I don't know. But I do think Scorsese's entered that territory where like just anything that he does will be considered good because it's supposed to be considered good. So I don't know. I don't know if Miyazaki's entered that territory, but I think it's possible. Because this was the weakest of his movies that I've seen. 02657 to end the stream. Thank you for gifting, holy shit, 20 memberships to cap off the year. This will be the final stream of the year. The next stream that we will have will be Monday, where we will be talking about the best chapters of 2023. All right, we got a lot of people who got to say thank you. Shaq, say thanks. Abrar Ahmed, Yokai Gota, Wade Turner, Jack D. Slime, Jalhoon. A lot of you guys are already members, I thought, right? Am I crazy? Ender Ayanami. No, you've been a member forever. I misread that. Hoogie, Salia, K Maya, Peter Falk, Red Agrid, Adam Brown, Billy Bob, Zoro Uchiha, David Q. Holy shit. El Coco, Loco, Barocco, Como Mocos, always love that name. Striker Virus, Demas Mob, Beat Gamer 99, and SS. Everybody say thank you. Thanks so much, 02657. Thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 5 months. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well, man. On that, we are going to close out the stream. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And yeah, I will talk to you all later. Peace.